товарищи красноармейцы, краснофлотцы, сержанты, старшины, офицеры армии и флота, генералы, адмиралы и маршалы, поздравляю вас с победоносным завершением Великой войны. Во знаменование полной победы над Германией. Да здравствует победоносная Красная Армия и военно-морской флот! Вечная слава героям!
My name is Kristina Norman. I live in Tallinn. I'm an artist and a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker. I think memory is the central approach and topic for the majority, like I would say, all of my art practice and filmmaking. And I used to work with the different monument cases in Estonia, and then I moved towards personal narratives and the use of interviews in kind of creating or altering spaces in my work. And yes, I would say memory is very important, and especially in Estonia, where the past is playing a very important role in the present. It's I would say our society is very much looking into the past and not that much into the future. It's as if coming to terms of making sense of the past is the driving force for the changes in the society. This is how I see it. Yes, and of course it gives a lot of inspiration for an artist and a filmmaker. My interest in these issues comes probably from the fact that I come from a mixed family, Estonian and Russian family, and in this we can say like memory war, which is going on in Estonia between two different interpretations of our historical past. And I would say, and that is a question of identity to these different memory collectives that we have present in Estonia, of my own identity in the society. And of course, in a war situation, when it's a war, you always have to choose the side, and you are always questioned by the belligerent parties. Like, are you with us or you're against us? And I think the major point of my artistic practice is to kind of create some space for a different position, and to show that different, like a third or fourth or fifth position in this war is also possible. And yes, I guess that's the major point that I want to make, which was actually the kind of the symbol that it is the symbol of memory war in Estonia, and it is very polarized. It has very polarized meanings to the two memory collectives. And what I wanted, why I'm showing it like you don't know whether it's falling or it's raising, and also to show that it has that my golden soldier, which is a life-size replica of the bronze soldier, but it's golden and it doesn't have that heavy monumental corporality. So it's kind of stripped of this heaviness, and it's kind of floating or levitating in the air. So that the idea was to show that monuments are empty shells, and they are being given or filled with meaning by the people. And I, as an artist, I'm showing that, okay, but this one is open for different interpretations. This Museum of Occupations. It's an interesting place, and it's difficult. Well, I would say that it might be regarded as a place of nostalgia because it's filled with objects from the past. It might be regarded as a place of mourning. But then, yes, and then it can be a place where this history is written in like according to certain historical discourse, with one having swastika on it, and the other one having the red star, and they are connected with a bridge, like to show that these two symbols are equal to the Estonians. Actually, that's quite complicated and probably a little bit too simple way to look at the history. And I think yes, and especially in this very kind of sterile artistic form, when you have this solid sculpture perpetrating this equation, and that would be yeah, it's like a representation of a very simplified representation of history, and kind of it's a closed symbol that basically is saying that we cannot discuss these issues anymore. And this is like, that is it. So the Soviet occupation and the German occupation for Estonians are equal. And there is no more. There should be no more discussion about it. So this is how I see this sculpture in this museum. I think many people in contemporary Estonia would say that when we see this kind of simplistic equation, then and it has equally like negative meaning, and it would say that the lives of the people who were born in the Soviet Union, or whose youth and the most how to say, the best period of their lives probably was in the Soviet time. That these people's lives are not worth remembering in positive way. So that means that these people's lives are basically wasted, and that life was not worth living, and that life was only about suffering in the Soviet Union. But at the same time, if you would ask, yeah, of course you cannot deny that, and I don't want to say that the Estonian people did not suffer from these different regimes. This is not what I want to say, definitely. But I don't think that that there should be a competition in suffering, or like that the suffering of others is more important than the suffering, or the suffering of one group of people is more important than the suffering of other group of people, and then that we should have this kind of like some scale that we can apply like on kind of in this comparison. I think, and this is exactly what I don't like about this symbol, is that it's so closed that that we cannot actually talk about the differences of the occupations. And for instance, I think in Estonian case also, which is not very much mentioned, is that also Estonian people, or some Estonian people, were also in the role of perpetrators during both occupations, and that this colonization was not only coming from somewhere else, like from Germany or Russia, but that also Estonian people were participating in both of the regimes, and that and also there were situations where former perpetrators became victims, and well, it's not that simple as this equation is being presented to us. I think like in about history is that there should be that the discussion should be possible, or that it should always, that it's never a solid equation of something, but that it's always that each next generation should rediscuss history, that it should be open to further discussions like in the future, and reevaluation, and making sense of the past, and probably learning something from it, because as soon as you close something, then you don't learn from it. You cannot learn from it. To this sculpture of Leonhard Lapin, I would just take a saw and kind of break the bridge between the two. Yes, I think art is the most effective way to do it, because it's not that simple. It's not that simple to interpret art. It's it differs from the historical, like the work of historians, for instance, because I think that is something that belongs to a small community of those people who are actually interested in these issues, and who have a critical approach to the past, and who would write their PhDs or some research work and books about history, but it is not so well like it's not accessible to the larger audience. And so what is accessible is, of course, the media, like the television and the newspapers, and of course, if I would have to analyze, for instance, the issue of the Bronze Soldier monument, then there is not much space in the media that is given to a different opinion than those two that are existing, that are actually in conflict. What I think is that this initiative in the European Parliament to establish this commemoration day of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact is driven from the same equation that we were discussing earlier, that Nazism and Stalinism, or the communism actually, we're not talking about Stalin, is equal, and that there should be this kind of equation mark between the two. Of course, I think that the Soviet past should be subject to discussion also in Europe, and that there should be some space created for different narratives than only the liberation of Europe from Nazism, of fascism, as the Russian part would say. Like an insight into the history of this sculpture, so and into its different and into the way the meaning of the bronze soldier sculpture had changed even in the Soviet time, and how it and what this the same symbol, what it symbolized in the 40s, what it symbolized in the 70s, or what it started to symbolize in the 90s, and what it symbolized to actually both the Estonian and Russian community, and also it actually the piece is giving. I think this artwork is giving also this opportunity to interpret this symbol like in many different ways, and also because of, as I mentioned before, the sculpture is like levitating in the air. Of course it was emotional. It's very emotional for me, because when I carried out the intervention in public space, where I brought the golden replica of the bronze soldier to its former location on this meaningful day for everyone, and of course it had a lot to do with fears that are present in our society, and it has a lot to do with the notion of victory, maybe. Not only because the Russian community was celebrating the Victory Day in the former location of the Bronze Soldier Monument and the new location of the Bronze Soldier Monument, but also my piece was questioning the victory of the Estonian government over this symbol and over the Russian community, or Russian community's presence and visibility in the public space, and with appearance of this golden statue in the center of Tallinn, 2 years after the relocation of the Bronze Soldier Monument, actually drew attention to the fact that the members of the Russian community are that they were, or that they are still coming to this former location, and now there are two places of commemoration but also where the community makes themselves visible, because what is also very important, that that after the bronze soldier was relocated to the cemetery, even those people who never came to the bronze soldier before the relocation suddenly bought flowers and came to the monument, and there were like masses of people. There were, I would say, like some 3 or 4 times more people. So when there is this mass of people wanting to be visible and wanting to protest against this marginalization, then everyone, like even those people who never went to the bronze soldier before, they came and they wanted to make themselves visible. So it's much like the scale of these celebrations of 9th of May is completely different from what it used to be before the relocation of the statue. And also that the meaning of this monument, or the actual bronze soldier monument in its meaning in the center of Tallinn, of course it was destroyed. That now the government would say, but we just relocated it. The statue is the same, the monument is the same. No, it's different. Like in the new location, it has absolutely different meaning. And now that this, and also this gold soldier, the appearance of gold soldier monument in 2009 in the former location is actually showing that this phantom of the bronze soldier is still existing in the former location, and not only to the Russian community for whom it is a desire to see that monument in the former location, but also the fear. It's like a ghost to the Estonian community, or like, let's say, not all the I don't also like this generalization, the Russians and the Estonians, but let's say the memory collective that was against this statue, that for them it is a fear that this soldier might come back, or this symbol might come back to the location where it was once beat it. The Estonian media, and if you would read the commentaries in the internet to the news that the soldier appeared, and that there is this artist who is going to represent Estonia in Venice, Estonia as a nation in Venice, with this project which wasn't considered to be art at all. Then of course there was a rage, and I received a lot of death threats actually in the commentaries, and it was very emotional. It was still difficult to talk. Well, nowadays it's easier, but at that time it was very, very hard for me. The same topic of this equation is probably is kind of worked through in my recent artistic practice. I made one project in Finland concerning the memory of the concentration camps from the Finnish Civil War, and kind of but that's also not that easy to describe in a couple of sentences, but I kind of brought together this collective memory, which is undiscussed and undisputed in contemporary Finland, with the narratives of immigrants to Finland who have similar experience of being imprisoned for political reasons in their home countries, and that are now given refuge in contemporary Finland. And of course that was that was an artistic manipulation, because this situation where you would see Finnish people listening to the testimonies of immigrants brought together in the context of collective memory, or the Finnish collective memory. Yeah, this situation would never happen in Finland, I guess. But as an artist, I could create this. I could manipulate with these, and kind of create this space where the Finnish people are listening to the testimonies of immigrants, and also the very last project is also it has to deal with the Estonian history, and one very important part in this national narrative of the suffering from the Nazi and the Soviet occupations is these Estonian refugees who escaped from Estonia in 1944, just before the Soviet troops entered, or at the time when the German army was leaving the country and the Soviet army was coming in. And there were a lot of refugees, and these people were given asylum. They were welcomed by the Swedes, for instance. And so I'm bringing these narratives of being a refugee as Estonian together with the narratives of those people who come to Estonia nowadays to ask for asylum, basically for help from Estonian people who seemingly have this experience to learn from, but who you can see that who are not ready to welcome anyone from abroad, even though these people come from very like similar situations, like from war zones and from areas where the genocide is happening against the people, and yes, so you can see how it is, what it does actually to the society when these very simplistic equations are being created and nothing can be discussed about the history.